Call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, we have all present, 9 present, 0 absent.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
That motion carries 8 ayes, 0 nays.
All right. Consent items. Judy?
No, I didn't have you guys set up. I'm still trying to catch up here. So give me just a minute. Okay, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, on tonight's consent agenda, we have for council's approval the city council minutes of October 2nd, city council work session minutes of October 9th, park and recreation board minutes of August 16th, and the park and recreation board minutes of July 26th, planning commission draft minutes of October 5th, municipal utilities meeting minutes of October 9th, accounts payable report from September 28th through October 11th, a resolution for the project number 2210, Trunk Highway 12 lift station elimination change order number 2, resolution ordering the 2024 preliminary engineering report, resolution for the 2024 improvement projects intent to reimburse, 2023 legislative changes required for the employee personnel handbook, and for council's information, the building report September 2023, finance report through September 30th, director reports, and new appointments to boards and commissions.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
You got a motion to approve. All those in favor, go ahead and vote.
Waiting on Councilmember Osk and Osmus. Do you want to do a voice vote? Sure. Councilmember Osk?
Aye.
Osmus?
Aye.
That motion carries 8 ayes, 0 nays.
All right, there's no items removed from the consent agenda, so we'll go to the open forum. We have one individual wishing to speak to the council, Jason Butler. Jason, you have 3 minutes.
Hey, I'm here tonight about my properties on 101 Benson Avenue and 105 Benson Avenue. I want to make this clear first that my frustration is not at the council nor the mayor. The mayor has been very helping in this situation. When I got denied last year for our project, between the two of us, we went back to the drawing board, spoke to a real estate attorney, got a title company involved. So we approached the city of Willmar about demolishing our buildings, putting up a new building. Approached the city in May for my driveway. Got the demolition permits paid for. No answer. June came along. My frustration level was at max. No answer. Hired an attorney. Sent a demand letter to the attorney in the city of Willmar. No answer. We're coming up on November. I should have my building built, and I'm not even past demolition yet. if you guys don't see this as personal, there's something wrong. We're flirting with discrimination here at the least. I mean, no other person in the world should have to wait 6 months to get an answer from the city. I'm losing $10,000 a month. It's ironic, today I paid $5,000 in taxes on the property and they took that just fine. You know what I mean? This is uncalled for. I'm losing money, drastic amounts of money. No answer. I've talked to Leslie, I looked at my phone, 32 phone calls since June. 32. Haven't got an answer back from her yet. Not one answer. She knows the answer. It's not the answer she wants to give me, and she's not going to give it to me. Something needs to be done. I'm asking this to be put on the agenda for the next meeting, or something happen between then and get this resolved. We're past the construction season. My building should be built by now. It's not even demoed. We're way past the frustration level. I mean, I don't want to say these words, but we're flirting on a lawsuit at this point because I feel discriminated against, 100%. I mean, we're not even the tens of thousands now. We're in properties and taxes, insurance, we're hundreds of thousands of dollars. We can't do this to small businesses. I don't care how personal I get, most of you don't care for me, she doesn't care for me, that's fine. I'm still a business, I'm still a taxpayer. We can't do this to people, guys. The Willmar is better than this. I'm trying to do best and do better than what is there, and I'm just getting kicked to the curb. And like I said, I'm past frustration. I'm just tired. I shouldn't have to be here. I shouldn't have to get an attorney, a title company. I shouldn't have to be at the city council. I shouldn't have to threaten a lawsuit. I shouldn't have to do any of
I'm
this.
sorry, Jason, your time is up.
Thank you.
All right, we go to number 9, public hearing, and that's rezone land GB2 district. Leslie?
Good evening, council. Tonight, this public hearing is on the rezoning. It is actually, you've already done the rezoning of the general business 2. You've created the general business 2 district. This is to move the properties within that district to that zone. And so that zone is the one that's pretty much the area from, on Highway 71 from Willmar Avenue south to the Menards area. This is for the big box item areas. Want to open it for public hearing? Anybody from the public?
All right,
Any questions, council?
what we need is a motion.
Now, you need to ask if there's any public that wants to speak.
Okay. All right, that's staff. We'll open it to public for comments. Anybody? If nobody, I'll close the public part of the rezoning and bring it back up to the council.
I move to approve rezoning the land into general business 2 district.
Second.
Any questions? If none, go ahead and vote. Oh, Audrey.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Reese. If I remember correctly, somewhere there's a list of what's in general business now and what's in general business 2, correct?
Yes, that's what you approved back in.
Right. Where would the general public find that? I mean, how would they know?
It is on the website.
It's on the website,
It should be.
just under our zoning map?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead and cast your vote.
Did you get it?
Okay, I'm waiting on several of you, so I'll do voice votes. Councilmember Schultes,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Osmus,
Aye.
and Butterfield.
Aye.
That motion carries, 8 ayes, 0 nays.
All right. Well, I'll entertain a motion for summary, published by summary.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor, go ahead and cast your vote.
That motion carries, 8 ayes, 0 nays.
All right. Next is rezone land into the general business 3 district. Leslie again.
Yes, this is the General Business District 3, which was approved back in September 5th. This ordinance then is to rezone the land, just as the same with the General Business 2, putting the land in the new zone. And you have that list in front of you. And then there's mostly in the industrial park area, and then along East Highway 12 is the areas that this would be in. Any questions?
If no questions, go ahead and vote.
Yep, you got to ask for public.
To ask
Oh,
public comment and then close the
sorry.
hearing.
all right. Is there any public comment on this rezoning? If not, I'll close the hearing and bring it up to the council.
I'll make a motion to approve general
Second.
business 3.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to adopt the ordinance. Any other questions? If not, go ahead and cast your vote.
That motion carries, 8 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you. Then I need a motion to publish by summary.
So moved.
Second.
Go ahead and vote.
Just waiting for Councilman, oh, there it popped in. 8 ayes, 0 nays, so the motion passes.
All right. Next is the 2023 assessment hearing. And I'll open that hearing and call on Jared.
Evening, Mayor Council. Dave told me to hit the escape key so we can get to these slides.
It's not. I'll go get IT. Oh, he's coming in.
Oh, yeah, there you go. That one's yours, right? Yeah. I think it's that one. Yep. And then,
I don't.
that deal right there. There you go now. Perfect, thank you, appreciate it. All right, good evening, Mayor Council. This is the 2023 construction projects final assessment hearing. Notices were provided to the property owners impacted by the improvements. Just by way of background, the improvement hearing associated with the improvements was held last fall. This hearing is specific to the project costs and the assessments associated with those projects, which are listed for you there this evening. We had the Gorton Avenue area improvements, the Irene, Augusta, and Mary improvements, which were both reconstruction projects, and then the 23rd Street Southeast improvements, which were mill and overlay improvements. Just a quick map here illustrating the location of the improvements throughout the city. Purple color being the reconstruction projects, and then the light blue, the mill and overlay portion. Summary of the costs associated with these improvements. Street reconstruction, you can see, is approximately $7.3 million. The sanitary sewer associated with the reconstruction projects, approximately $1.74 million. Water main total, just over $2 million. Storm sewer associated with the project, $1.4 million. And then the overlay improvements, approximately $1.8 million, for a total construction cost or project cost for all the improvements of $14,282,380. Assessment rates, as they were calculated for each of the benefiting property owners. The street reconstruction assessment rate, $62.50 per adjusted front foot. The sanitary sewer main reconstruction at $15 per adjusted front foot. Sanitary sewer services, based on the bids received, came in at $785 each. Water main reconstruction was at $19.50 per foot. Water services, you'll note there are two different types of water services there, 1 inch and less in diameter. Those were at $995 each. And then the water services greater than 1 inch in diameter were $2,845. Those are primarily the more commercial sized water services. Storm sewer reconstruction was at $13 per foot. Going back to the assessments that were levied with the improvements for 2022, all of these rates are within 5% of the cost levied last year, which is approximately the same increase that we've seen in the construction cost index. The overlay portion of the project in the 23rd area, there are 3 distinct types of lot sizes in that area, those ranging from 0 to 60 feet, 61 to 99, and then greater than 100 foot. So the assessments have been identified there. The small classified lots as 3,000, the medium size at 4,500, and then the large lots at 6,000. In addition, the city's assessment policy indicates that for street and storm sewer improvements, the short side of a corner lot is assessed for those, and then 30% of the long side. So essentially, the city's assessment policy identifies the additional value of 2 sides of a lot having street, but also takes into account that not the entire front footage is assessed. So that's why there's that break. In terms of the corner lots, they're listed on your screen. The corner lots in this scenario, all of the corner lots were classified based on their short side. And the $900 additional was 30% of the short, or of the small lot classification. So in essence, providing the least amount of assessment possible to the residents with these 3 types of lot classifications. And just by way of reference, and as you look through that area, you can see there's 3 distinct lot sizes that step out there. So what's the assessment breakdown? The street and utility reconstruction piece to private properties is just over $2 million, and then the overlay improvements, approximately $1.2 million. You'll note that there are some city properties contained within the project areas. Those properties were also identified as part of the assessment process for a total assessment amount of $3,258,259.25. One of the questions we get a lot are the terms and interest rate associated with the assessments. The council has identified, based on the bond sold for the improvements, a 15-year term, and the assessment rate is in accordance with those bonds sold, adding an additional 1.5%, I believe, to arrive at an assessment rate of 5.672%. And then just for reference, for those in the audience that may be interested in determining what the annual payment might be based on that term and rate, for every $1,000 in assessment, it's approximately $101. So what is the process associated with this? So partial prepayments are allowed prior to October 31st. And in addition, a full payment may be made prior to October 31st. So if a property owner wants to pay off a portion of the assessment or the entire thing, no interest will be added up to October 31st. Now, next year, the assessments will be included on the property taxes, which are due May 15th and October 15th of each year. And then full payment after this year, October 31st, if a full payment is going to be made, then the interest for the subsequent year would be added to that full-time payment. So if on November 5th, a property owner decides to pay off their assessments, the 2024 interest will be added to that payment. I believe I covered that all.
So if they're gonna pay it off, they gotta pay it off before November 1st?
Yeah, October 30th, 31st, yep.
I'm sorry,
Those
Jared.
payments- Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Clarification on the interest?
On the interest, if they do not pay by October 31st, they come in on the November 5th date, like you say, or any time between November 1st and the 15th, you are only charged interest from the date of the bond sale, which was August 21st this year, through the date that you pay it. After November 15th, then you will pay all of 24 interest.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. Good point. And so with that, Mayor, Council, this is an assessment hearing. I will pause unless council has any immediate questions, and we'll obtain input from the public.
Any questions? All right, we will, I'll call out people as they signed up to speak. First individual is Leon Carlson.
Good evening, Mayor. I guess I'm number one, so. I live on, Leon Carlson's my name, and I live on 1824 Gorton. It's a corner lot, and up until now, it was always my understanding we only paid assessment on one side, but I'm finding out that we're paying on both sides, so. I guess my primary, just as a question, is do they have a formula that they use to determine the assessment on both sides? I think he referred to it some here, but I don't know if that was, I mean, how did they determine my assessment if we had 19th Street done a few years back, and I paid the assessment on that. Now I'm being assessed on Gorton Avenue, and how was that assessment determined? It's my specific
We want to
question.
address this as we go.
Yeah, Mayor, members of the council, I would recommend that if there are questions about methodology in calculating assessments that can be addressed as the comments are made, that would probably be more efficient. Ultimately, and at the end of this public hearing, if there are any objections communicated by members of the public who address the council, those will need to be addressed. But if there's questions, I would recommend those be answered if possible.
Okay. And is Jared going to answer this? Okay,
Jared?
Sir, what is your address again? I know you said 19th.
1824 Gorton. Okay, I'm right here.
37?
I'm right here.
Right here?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so Mayor Council, it looks like in this particular property case, 19th Street previously had sewer and water utilities installed in it. So with this property owner's assessment, he was only assessed for 30% of his long side, which is on Gorton, and in accordance with the assessment policy. So he's only charged for street and storm sewer, no other utilities, nor street or anything on 19th.
okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Leon. Thank you, Jared. Next is Chris Nelson Jensen. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. My name is Chris Nelson Jensen, Secretary of the Fairview Cemetery Association. And
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. I'm Deb Magnuson, President of Fairview Cemetery Association. We are here tonight to object to the $2 assessment cost for the Gorton Avenue Street reconstruction. We are a 501c3 nonprofit association and not in a position to make annual payments of this magnitude, which is required in the proposed assessment. The Fairview Cemetery Association solely survives under plot sales and donations we receive yearly. We receive zero funding from government, state, or local service organizations or churches. We also are a non-denominational cemetery. As you can well imagine, we've set our plot prices while considering our anticipated costs of mowing, snow removal, internal road repair, utilities, garbage, and trees. Furthermore, our pricing is competitive with the Cloverleaf Cemetery at $500 per lot. In order to meet the city's demands, we would need to set our plot prices at an estimated level of $1,100 per plot. This price is unworkable for us.
in adding to this, such an increase in our price per plot would simply reduce sales at the time when the association would need to be doubling the annual plot sales. Unfortunate pandemics do increase plot sales, but they are obviously unplanned events. We realize that the state law requires you to assess the rate per property class, not the same rate per project. Please consider that our property is truly not industrial class, not commercial class, nor residential class. We propose that the city consider setting a reduced rate, and furthermore, the city pull this from the assessment roll and bill the association at an annual allotment, which could be determined midsummer each year to meet your September budget constraints. We've attempted to visualize the future control and ownership of the cemetery after 4 years of not paying the assessment as listed. Laws do prevent the removal of graves, and city officials have expressed their lack of interest in owning the cemetery. We are not turning a blind eye to the city's need to pay contractors for the ever-increasing cost of city street reconstruction, but it now becomes evident that the taxpayers as a whole may need to assist.
Let's not overlook the same problem in a far distant time, say 150 years, to a far distant set of council members who will have to have table costs to complete a full cemetery with no annual sales of available plots. This objective can walk down a different path as we consider the 4 street accesses to the cemetery, which are not truly improved to a value of $82,182. What can we do as a council for us? We as a board are passionate and committed and have families who are buried there. To maintain the cemetery at its current standard of beauty while coming to a resolution. Keep in mind that we solely survive on our plot sales and donations. We realize that the city sets their assessments by linear feet. But the final review by qualified staff is that the proposed assessment must not exceed the improved value to the property and the final resting place of so many of your citizens in our community and all other communities. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, council, for your time.
Right. Thank you, Deb and Chris. Next is Tony Lopatka.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and honorable council people. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My assessment started at 16 and it went up to 22,000, but that's not really what I'm here about. Today, when I came home from work, there were right-of-way stakes driven 16 feet from my front step. In 1990, when this street was rebuilt the last time, there was language between my parents who owned it and the city engineer, Dale Swanson, correcting that, moving that, and that right away, and I have the letter, a copy of the letter from Mr. Swanson vacating or a quitclaim deed to the southerly 31 feet of that right of way. And with that being said, with that right of way that was agreed upon and platted at that time, the city provided a map to my parents in 1993 that shows the right of way of the road as built. And if you notice, there's not much right of way in the curve. If you look at the east driveway in that semicircle drive, there's less than 5 feet from the edge of the right of way to what I would assume would be the backside of the curb. The city's plan at this point is to move the road 6 feet closer to my house. That's the roadway. That's not the right of way. So I realized this today when I saw the stakes, so I went and found my abstract and came across this map and the letters. I knew it wasn't right, but it didn't get staked till today. I did finally get a hold of Mr. Bogie, but we did not have a chance to talk at length. Mr. Bogie has been responsive in the past when I've had concerns. Moved a hydrant, it was very good. I'm good with that, et cetera. The other point I have is that in 1990, my property was assessed at 175 feet, and now it's just shy of 300 feet, I believe, 260 or 290. I haven't gained any land, so either the calculation has changed or some figures are incorrect. So I must say that the process has gone, the construction process has gone well. The contractor's done a good job. It's just, I believe there's an error in the right-of-way. Thank you for the time. I do have one more question. When you do this in the future, I would ask that you get rid of assessments to the property owners, as there's no benefit for us. You need sewers, you need storm sewers, you need all that stuff. But I don't see a $22,000 improvement in my property or in the city. Everyone else gets to use that road. Gorton Avenue particularly is heavy traffic. I know that West Central Steel is paying more because they have concrete, but they have done the majority of the damage to the road, and the rest of us are getting charged for it excessively. We don't have any say over who drives on it. I would like to see the city adopt a assessment plan where you figure out how many millions you're going to spend a year, and that's what everybody in town pays. And you spread it out over all the taxpayers. That's the most fair, at least all the drivers. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Jared, do you want to meet with?
Yeah, we'll meet.
With Tony? All right. Next is Charlotte Logie.
Yeah, I live in the development of Pheasant Meadows. They did overlay work there, and my assessment seems extremely high. In talking with somebody else that lives in our development, they had gutter replaced, and I did not. And I was wondering why such an exorbitant amount was assessed to my home. Thank you.
Can we get a street
Her
number?
address is 702 24th Street Southeast.
24th Street.
Jared?
Sorry, that address again in the,
702 24th Street Southeast.
Number 72. The overlay.
the lot is currently classified as a medium.
You want to move, Jared, you want to move your PowerPoint back to that?
4,500.
So which does it fall into?
The medium, 61 to 99.9,
Okay.
4,500.
Do you know if the curb was done on that location there? She's stating it wasn't.
Curb wasn't done on a lot of locations throughout the mill and overlay because those are pavement projects only.
Okay.
So that was in the correct way to do it.
Yeah, it's just, yes, it's correctly classified according to all the other lots in the area. Yep.
Audrey?
Thank you, Mayor Reese. Just a question. Have we ever done that before with resurfacing? Do the small, medium, large? I don't remember that, and I'm just curious if that's something new versus the footage.
So I guess I didn't go back a long ways, but as staff reviewed the assessments in that area, I mean, I think if you take a look at the map, there are three distinct sizes, right? So the short answer to your question is I'm not sure. The reason why it was done this way this year is because we felt it was the most equitable way to assess the three distinct lot sizes. So I still believe that it is the most equitable because some properties are over 100 feet and they would definitely have a larger assessment. That's why we broke them down based on the lot sizes that we measured off of the county's GIS to arrive at the distances or the lengths in front of their properties, so.
Okay, any other questions? All right, we'll move on. Brad Service?
Hello, thank you for listening to me tonight. Appreciate that. I'm Brad Service. I live on the corner of 20th Street Northwest and Gorton Avenue. I appreciate that area is being reconstructed. It needed it. West Central has a lot of traffic on it, and I think we're all going to agree it's going to probably double in traffic over the next year after this is completed. Gorton Avenue's update is going to benefit me absolutely zero. There will be no increase in my value of my property, and I'm being assessed on Gorton Avenue because I own 175 feet on that street. I have 100 feet on 20th. I would be in agreement with you that would increase my property value by having the cul-de-sac redone because that would be a benefit to me. Gorton Avenue will not. And unfortunately, I'm paying $6,000 to $7,000 more for my property for the tax value than my neighbors that live in the cul-de-sac where I live. This summer, we have gone through a lot of hardship trying to get in and out of that neighborhood. My neighbors have wheelchairs, they have walkers. Nobody in the city provided any type of transportation for them to get in and out of their properties, except to drive across my lawn. I've got ruts in my lawn that you wouldn't believe right now that I will have to take care of next year. I do not use any more of that cul-de-sac than my neighbors do. Why should I have to pay for more? I believe I should be paying the same as the other people in the cul-de-sac. And I'm asking for a reduction of about $6,000 off of my assessment. And because there's no way that this is going to be $18,000 worth of extra value into my property. And if somebody wants to come take a look at my property and discuss it with me, they can, because they'll understand that being right across from West Central Steel, the empty lot behind me has been sold 7 times since I moved into that property. Nobody has yet to build on it because it is probably unbuildable. But now they do have sewer and water coming into it, so that may help. But I need the city council here to help me with this, because this, if I was gonna add this to my property tax over the next 15 years, my wife and myself are retired, I will probably never see the day that this is paid off. It is gonna double my property taxes. So that's why I would say thank you.
Jared?
All right, so for the address at 401 20th Street Northwest, we've identified a short side, which is 20th Street at 100 feet. The long side is 220 feet. Total assessment amount for street and storm sewer, or footage rather, 166 feet, which takes 100 feet the short side per the policy, plus 30% of the long. So that's where the total of 166 comes from. If we added both sides together, it would be 320 feet. So that's the benefit from the
So
corner
one side was
assessment policy.
166,
One side is 100 feet.
okay,
The second side is 220 feet.
220?
Correct.
And his final assessment is based on how many feet?
166.
166. Audrey?
Yeah, just a question. I know you're talking about the short side and the long side. Are we back to an address for a short side and?
No,
No.
no.
So what is your,
In his case, it is.
okay, but what, I know we had a discussion about this last year and there was uncomfortableness about assessing both sides and we talked about that. But in this situation, or in general, right? It's not the address side. Are you going by the side where the utilities are then?
Yeah, so that's a good clarification. For street and storm sewer, the corner lot credit applies. So the side where the sewer and water main are located, that's the side what sanitary sewer and water main is based off of. So it's not necessarily the address side, it's the side where the sewer and water come off,
That would be
our access. In his case, it is the address side on 20th. So he was not charged the 166 feet for the sewer and the water. He was only charged the 166 for the storm and street. The water main and sewer assessment associated with his property are based on his short side.
Okay. Now, there's also, we have a policy that you can't be assessed more than every, I forget what the years are,
20.
20. So in this situation,
26 years ago, I've been assessed the last time, I think it was.
okay,
Gordon Avenue,
okay.
and I lived there at that time.
Third question, I know I took complaints about people driving on the lawn, and I was told that that was, basically the city was aware of that, and that that was the only way that people could get to their properties. So in that case, are we going to be repairing where people had to drive?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So
So
what he's
the-
talking about on his lawn is something that the city will finish next year or sometime when it,
Yes, and by way of reference, just for everybody else's background information, in order to provide access during the phasing of the projects and the curing of the concrete and everything else that was going on out there, the city's existing trail was utilized as a temporary access to provide access into the areas that were inaccessible from Gordon. I was aware that some people didn't stick to the trail and moved off the trail, and if that's the case, and that's part of providing access, then we'll take a look at it with the property owner and make sure that it's addressed. I can assure you that it won't be taken care of yet this fall, but just based on the way the weather is, but before the project's finished and the final payment is made to the contractor, it'll be addressed.
thank you.
Thank you. Next is Matt Schrupp.
Hello, good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. Matt Schrupp, address is 905 23rd Street Southeast. I live on the corner of 23rd Street and 23rd Street and 10th Avenue. So corner lot, the overlay construction was done actually on my side lot on 10th. 23rd Street that was completed in front of my house was not done, and it's a $6,000 assessment on the side street, on the side of my property. So interesting that I just learned that if there's been an assessment within 20 years, actually 23rd Street had a project completed around 2006 or 2007 that I just finished paying an assessment on. So potentially we need to review that if that would reduce the assessment. The other concern that I have is there was a lot of heavy equipment that was obviously used through the process. 23rd Street, actually no work was done on the immediate road in front of us, no reconstruction of that. I'm concerned about the life of that road now and how soon that's going to have to be replaced because several of the crack seals, the rubber that they put down to seal in the road, many of those were damaged with the heavy equipment, excavators, and lots of various dump trucks that were moving in. So concerned about how long that road and how soon until we have to get that redone and have another assessment done. So I would ask council if that's true about the 20 years that we revisit that for the property that paid that assessment on 23rd. And then I guess Jared clarified the calculations, how the overlay was calculated, so I appreciate that information ahead of time. But the other thing I want to mention is I feel it's a pretty short window. So, you know, I got a letter dated September 19th. By the time I received it, you know, it's another week probably before I see it and get that mail. And then to expect people to pay $6,000 by October 31st to avoid finance fees, I think that's a pretty tight window for people to try to budget and try to understand. And if there was a way that we could do some partial payments or a way that maybe there's within the first 45 days and then another, maybe 3 months later, 90 days later, another payment, it would just make it more manageable for people. And it's pretty large sums of money and pretty significant to people's cash flow on a monthly basis. So I would ask if there's clarification on the previous assessments that have been charged.
Jared, can you clarify that 20-year for me?
Yeah, sure. So Anytime an improvement is conducted within 20 years, that's the time frame for which the assessment policy indicates that the expected life of the property should be. So in the case of 23rd, as Matt indicated, 23rd Street wasn't done in front of the property, but rather it was this, I guess, which would be his side street. I was just trying to find the particular parcel here so I can give some more specifics. East side. So it appears as though the side that was improved was 120 feet in length, and there is no frontage calculated on 23rd Street, which would be the long side. So, in summary, Mr. Schrupp's not being assessed for the 23rd Street side of the improvement, rather the side street.
So I think it's a $4,000 assessment on that property back at that time. Now assessment on the other side.
So this corner lot.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could staff address the question of the timing behind this? It seems to me in my memory that this is significantly later than last year. Is that accurate?
It's actually similar to the same time as last year. So certainly we could move it up a month, or, I mean, I can't remember the specific date of last year, but it was definitely October, when the final assessment rolls were completed after the hearings and adoptions. So
When did people receive the letter last year?
I don't remember. September sometime.
But you would still think that that's kind of like the normal practice would be that letter getting out to them in mid-September?
Staff can certainly be nimble, but we haven't received that complaint in the past, so we can certainly adjust.
What would that entail? What would that look like for what we would have to move up then?
So really the value from a project perspective of conducting the assessment hearings in fall is that means you have months of construction that are ongoing, right? So that we have a good handle on what the costs associated with everything are. Certainly we could move that up. It's just not as much certainty because not as much construction has been done. So it's certainly not a problem if council would like to move them up to
There would be
August or
more
September.
There'd be more guesswork involved than
just-
what the total cost was.
We wouldn't have as many pay estimates as the construction wouldn't be as far along. Nonetheless, we can make it work.
Is it possible to move the deadline back for them to pay?
I think that's a county deadline.
That's a statute deadline.
Dear, does this one fit like the corner lot reduction since part of his lot was done a few years ago?
So he's only being assessed on the short side. So on all the corner lot policies in the mill and overlay areas, we use the short side for the calculation.
Okay. How about last time he was assessed on the other side?
He's not being assessed for 23rd this time, so I'm not sure what he was assessed for last time.
Okay.
Audrey?
Rick was first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. It's fine.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm still trying to understand the timing, and if we look at the budgets for the construction projects, okay, when we get all done, I mean, we're basing them off from the bids that we got, et cetera, and there could be some cost overruns, but if there's money left over, we don't reduce assessments or reduce costs. I mean, help me understand the thought that we have to wait until we're so far along in the project that we know the costs.
Because that gives a more accurate construction cost, right? So the more work that's done, the closer to completion that we get, the more we know about what the actual final construction cost is. So when the city bonds for an improvement, we have the construction bids. We know what the project costs are going to be based on construction bids, and we move forward with the bonding from there. So if their project is trending under budget, then that value would not be passed on to the property owner if a project is coming under budget if you're early. Whereas if you wait longer till the end and we have a good idea of where the project costs are coming in, and if the project costs are under what were anticipated or included in the bids, then that can be factored in.
Okay, so we do factor in if like at this stage, we're under budget, we factor it into this assessments.
Yeah, we take a look at the project totals up until the very last pay estimate prior to the hearing, so.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you address his concern about the activity on 23rd Street since they worked on the street adjacent to him to the south and across the street on the cul-de-sacs? Because there was 5-6 dump trucks on 23rd Street just lined up, road grader, packer, a bunch of vehicles. So it was not just that cul-de-sac, it was the one north too, so.
Yeah, and it's definitely a situation we run into with improvements around the community, whether it's mill and overlay or reconstruct, and we try to phase them so that newer streets aren't being impacted by the construction. In terms of the specific question on what that's going to do to the life expectancy of the pavement, I honestly, if I stood before you this evening and told you that anything other than I'd be speculating, at the end of the day, 20% or 20 years is the timeline associated with improvements and assessments, and anything under 20 years, we try not to do anything with, and if it is under 20 years, then that property would receive the proportionate share of reduction in the assessment based on the life expectancy.
So we'll just have to keep an eye on it?
Absolutely.
See if it's busting up next.
I don't anticipate it will, but we'll definitely monitor it.
Okay, thank you.
Moving on. Craig Gertzman.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Like Brad mentioned earlier, I think nobody will argue that Gorton needed the work. One of the things I look at is, I've only lived there 4 years. I've just moved to Willmar 4 years ago, and so far Willmar's been a great community, so I appreciate that. But from my travels and watching the traffic on Gorton, it is a main road north of the railroad tracks. You just watch when one of those trains are blocking 19th or County Road 5, and Gorton is probably busier than Highway 12 for that little bit of time. But in many cities, or I should say some cities I know, they assess when there's a main road in town that benefits the community as a whole, they assess it differently than a neighborhood street. I don't know if Willmar does that or not. So one of my questions was, and based on this slide that's up there, and maybe Jared can answer this, is that did you take the projects as all, and that's what it looks like from his PowerPoint, you took all the reconstruct projects, lumped the total dollars amount together, and then assessed it evenly according. That's what I'm sure that's what he did, and he can answer that question. So I think that when I look at the benefit to my property, it's really a bigger benefit to the city of having Gorton in good condition, because the traffic is going to pick up. I know it will, because it was so bad before that everybody was avoiding it, and now people will take that road more. So I think it is a benefit to the community more than it is a benefit to me. So that's why I'd like my assessment relooked at due to that, because there's a bigger benefit to the city. And the last thing I'll just say is that I'll ask that the city PD With this last phase 5 of the project, where they're doing that at 500 feet down by the cemetery, I've watched so many people come up on that trail and try to get to the other, try to get around on 19th Street, and then they have to turn around on 20th and go back down the trail and get off and then go back to County Road 5 because they're just trying to get around. And I asked the city PD if they would patrol, because now that they're redoing down there by the cemetery, people are gonna go up through the cemetery. They're gonna drop down on that east entrance of the cemetery and then come up through by West Central Steel and go down 19. So lastly, I just asked that the city watch that, because that's gonna tear apart the cemetery roads as well. So, thank you.
Craig, could you say your last name
Gertsema, Gertsema.
and your address?
2100 Gordon.
Thank you.
Tom?
My question is for Leslie. Leslie, on this Gorton, isn't this one considered a county road? Isn't the county paying a portion of this reconstruction?
It's not a county road.
I thought this was like 7th Street Southwest. I thought this was one that the county contributed into.
It is not.
Okay.
Used to be Highway 12 many years ago.
Before our time.
Yes. And we're old. All right. Don Tweet?
Don and Eileen Tweet, 2108 Gordon Avenue Northwest. And I just want to say, when we got that letter, we almost couldn't believe it. Our assessment on our house is $27,300. We're both retired. I mean, we could probably pay for it out of our savings, but that's really bad for the city to charge a homeowner that much. That's what I think anyways. And our house is right across from West Central Steel's main entrance. And I bet you we get hundreds of trucks, semis full of steel every day. And they're the ones that ruined the road in the first place. There's so much traffic right where we are. And I don't think we should have to pay for what they did either, so.
And also the part that the other gentleman said about having to, if it's not paid by October 31st, then the interest starts so quickly that, you're really paying a lot, at that price that we are assessed, that's a lot of interest if we spread that out too. So it makes it difficult for anybody to pay all of that.
And we've been there 30 years. It's been assessed before. Before, it wasn't assessed on all my property. My property's like a pie shape. Gordon Avenue and the lake come together right at the end of my property. So they only charged me, I don't know how many feet, but not the whole stuff that was way down at the end of my property.
Probably about 2/3 the first time.
So I don't know where unless they changed the rules but that's what they did back then. So I don't know what they did.
Jared, how was he assessed this time?
Pardon me? Oh, I had one other thing to say. They put a storm sewer right through the middle of my yard now again that goes down to the lake. They dug up, tore down like 12 trees right in my yard. And now I got a big pile of dirt about this high still. I don't know what they're going to do there. Or half the branches and the trees are hanging there. Hopefully the city's going to fix that, or somebody is, but just so you know. Thank you.
Let's ask Jared how they assessed and then
The last time?
about your storms that were running through there. Jared?
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, so currently on the assessment roll, the property footage is identified at 232 feet. In terms of the previous assessment, I'm not sure I'm not sure what the footage that might have been assessed was or what year it was done. Nonetheless, the storm sewer question, if if the storm sewer installation resulted in, they're going to fix it, I guess is the short answer. It'll be restored. Grass will be replaced. Trees won't be replaced if they're in an easement, but turf will be restored.
Must be an easement running through there?
Yes.
All right. Any other questions? Tom?
Yeah, Jared, just so you can let them really know how that was calculated being the pie shape like they stated.
Yeah, so if you measure the footage along the actual footage from the west property line to the east property line, it's over 250 some feet if you were to just measure along the curb. So recognizing that it is a unique shaped lot, and we run into these all the time. The 232 feet is a more equitable representation of that pie-shaped piece, because as he indicated, there is a portion on that west side that, I mean, he doesn't have an access. It doesn't appear to be utilizing it at this point, but nonetheless, that's the measurement, 232, I believe I said.
Yes.
232. When you measure it along the frontage of the property, it actually exceeds that, so.
Rick?
Mr. Mayor, was there a storm sewer easement prior? Or did you have to?
We did not obtain a new easement as part of the
There was
project.
one then.
Yes.
But there never was a storm sewer there?
I must have missed part of that question in terms of the storm sewer. All I heard was that storm sewer went in, trees were removed, there's a dirt pile.
So there was a storm sewer before. You didn't have to buy,
We did not purchase any easement for any new storm sewer, no.
and the old storm sewer didn't work then, or you just enlarged it, or?
I'd have to look at the plans, to be honest with you, council member, but there definitely was a storm sewer improvement on there.
Okay.
Yep.
So were all of the properties assessed for that storm sewer then? Improvement?
Storm sewer is part of the overall assessment, so it's a street component, storm sewer component, sanitary sewer, water main are all calculated into the assessments as applicable based on the corner lot policy we've been talking about a lot tonight.
I have a question.
Yes, Mike?
I thought I heard him say that storm sewer would drain into the lake. Is that true?
I will find that out. I don't have those plans. I'll pull them up. I don't recall specifically, but there is storm sewer. I mean, as we all know, there's storm sewer that's draining into the lakes around the community. So I'll find that specific answer for this specific property.
I would assume it's draining into the lake.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is nowhere else.
No.
And we've got the creek crossing with the box culverts that we worked around as part of the improvement too, so. Yeah.
Audrey?
Just a clarification, on your screen that's up there, the storm sewer shows per foot, but that's averaged out over all of the project, not
Correct.
per lot.
I'm not sure if I follow you.
Well, it
So
would
there's
be
a-
per lot if it was over the whole.
There's a
So
storm.
everybody's getting assessed for storm sewer based off from their footage.
Yes, it's not only the people with storm catch basins in front of their
Okay.
properties. Correct. You're absolutely right.
Any other questions? I want to ask our chief of police a question, going back to Craig Gertzma and control traffic from not going through the Fairview Cemetery?
So that's certainly something that we can monitor and work with possibly Public Works to put up some barricades to inhibit the pass-through traffic like that.
Okay. Is that gonna, you okay with that?
To me.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't do that.
Yes.
Do barricades?
Yes.
I think that's gonna be pretty difficult to do.
That's gonna be,
Because people go out there all the time to see their loved ones, and I don't know how you're gonna control that. And then how are you knowing if that person going through is seeing a loved one or passing through? Some people just drive by and go through.
and all four need to be open at all times. Because I'm out there sometimes 7 hours a day doing stuff, volunteering. And there are people out there all the time with their loved ones. They're having picnics out there, they're walking, we're walking. And we got burials out there, you know? You got 4 different sections, you know, and you can do a burial, you can't not have an area open, you know? And we got vault companies coming in, me digging holes for cremation, you know? I mean, you gotta have everything open. And selling lots. If I'm selling lots out there, I need to have every area open. Because I always say just exactly where to go.
Well, I'm just concerned about your roads going through the cemetery taking a pounding.
Quick question on that. The concern that Craig brought up is just blocking off 2 of the entrances and exit. Would that alleviate the issue of how they were going around? I'm not visualizing it. No.
No, we do it in winter. We do 2. We have 2 openings. You know, one that goes to the chapel, and then the lakeside, and the one on 5. But we usually block those. Some of them, but yeah, our plan is to leave them open this year because it's just so hard to get through there for burials. I don't see how we can barricade any of those roads.
I don't see how the police are gonna be able to monitor that either.
No.
Honestly, I don't know.
Audrey?
What's the time frame that we have left to deal with the construction on that area?
So the eastern 500 feet of Phase 5 that they're working on, certainly anticipating that that's going to be done here in November. There will be no gravel on that street during the winter. The remaining portion will be completed in 2024, spring of 2024. So in terms of, it won't be impacted over the winter, but it'll be something that we need to work with again next spring.
All right. Move on to Jay Halliday.
Jay Halliday, 423rd Street Southeast. Mayor, Council, first just want to give some accolades to Jared. Good job, Jared, tonight. A lot of good questions and for his presentation and some clarity. Just here to express my disinterest for how we assess corner lots. And so I was assessed $6,900, which is a pretty significant amount of money. In general, these assessments are high. I'm just looking comparatively at all the assessments in my neighborhood. I see a few other corner lots are at $6,000, and then my adjacent neighbors are $4,500. And so being a corner, I'm assessed some $2,400 more than my neighbors. So just hoping we can relook at those assessments and bring those costs down. Thank you.
All right. I got to ask a question of staff. Where do we go with this? The comments.
We'll be reviewing everyone that made a complaint tonight and their assessment and see if it warrants changes. We won't be doing it tonight. Engineer and staff will sit down with that and go through those.
Okay. All right. Judy, you have some letters to read into the.
We've addressed all the ones signed up.
What's that?
All the ones that signed up you have addressed?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I received 4 separate letters from citizens who could not attend tonight. First one is from Jeremiah Brensdell. It's his objection appeal for reconstruction of road on Irene Avenue. City Clerk and Mayor of Willmar. I, Jeremiah R. Brensdell, object on paying for the amount of $11,680 for the improvements of the road at 1013 Irene Avenue Southeast in Willmar, Minnesota, over a few legitimate reasons. I'm addressing to the $11,680 because due to inflation nonstop and my health conditions that are arising makes it harder and harder to keep ahead in life. I live a simple life and am a single father who has resided in Willmar since 2013. I bought my house in June 17th of 2020 prior to the huge uproar and inflation due to COVID. Since then, everything has inflated higher and higher except wages. My mortgage has went up over $100 every year since I bought it and looking to go up over another $100 again next year due to this random road construction that was not needed came to a head. Our road was not that bad in the first place. I've had several health problems occur as well in the past year that makes the quality of life harder. It could change my future in no time. I am asking you to look at waiving or lowering the $11,680 owed for the road. We pay enough already in taxes and inflation. Where does it stop? Timing on the road and the high inflation of America makes it harder and harder for these extra bills. I hope this letter finds you with an open mind. I'm just trying to live a simple life with as little stress as possible to offer my daughter a decent life in Willmar. Thank you, Jeremiah Brensdale. And he has, please mail me a letter or call me with your decision, or if you need more information to go ahead towards this letter. Again, his address is 1013 Irene Avenue Southeast. Second letter is from Richard Hess at 2305 6th Avenue Southeast here in Willmar, parcel number 956681700, to the City Council of the City of Willmar. Please let this letter serve as my notice to appeal my assessment on parcel number 956681700. My appeal is based for the following reasons. Parcel is a 10-foot wide piece of property with no driveway. Parcel is adjacent to parcel number 956681120, which is my homestead, and which is also being assessed separately. I propose one of the 2 remedies. Combine the footage of the 2 adjacent properties and be assessed once for the combined footage. Number 2, be assessed on the 10-foot property on the same percentage as it is to maximum footage of the property in the small assessment level. Example, 10 feet to 100 feet equals 10%. I've started the process of having the 2 properties combined. Your consideration in this appeal is greatly appreciated. Richard N. Hess, and he did include a map showing where his property was located.
What was the address on that one?
2305 6th Avenue Southeast.
Thank you.
Third letter says, Dear City Council of the City of Willmar, I am hereby writing my objection as I am unable to attend the in-house meeting on October 16th at 6:32 p.m. Parcel number 956680770, Mitchell Ossen, 405 23rd Street Southeast in Willmar. 23rd Street Road is a cut-through for Lakeland Drive, Highway 12, and numerous others. I, for one, see individuals who have said they don't live in the area yet cut through as it's quicker and enjoyable walking pavement and neighborhood. To be specific, a white Jeep with a female driver and male passenger travel through to the Green Mill Roughs for their break routinely around 12 p.m. weekdays. I think that it is exceptionally discourteous and lacking formal notice to not tell the occupants of this area the total amount was not being added to our yearly property taxes like almost everything else in this county. I can say for me, and I'm sure others, I don't have $4,500 sitting around to pay up front, especially the way the economy is. Further down on the notice, we need to take care of it in roughly a month time span from not when we receive the letter, but the day it was written, to avoid daily interest, of which the interest sum is outrageous. I'm exceptionally baffled at the so-called upgrade outcome and do believe lots of corners were cut to meet deadline just to finish it. I have included photos to specifically show the missed repairs on this project, still holds water, soil, and so on, including chips and raised edges that were not taken care of that were marked to be fixed during this project roughly a year ago. I do appreciate the letter conveying to residents areas in development was to begin and be finished. Yet as far as anyone is concerned, there is an in-city limits work time of start that is regulation or law, I believe. There were many events of times caught beginning before that said begin time, however, certainly not working past 5 p.m., which I found odd. I was woken up by machines and work starting on an early Saturday morning of which I was not informed of in any sort for any weekend work. The timing of which the road was to be graded down and oil spread on that said Saturday was suspiciously alarming, as the day before said road crew was nowhere to be seen midday around 2 p.m. For me to leave my residence, I was to drive my greatly taken care of vehicle on an oil of some sort and listen to it make clinks of suspecting rocks and other debris being stuck to the wheel wells and underneath and side panels of my personal vehicle, of course, which had to be cleaned off at my expense and my time. I acknowledge that a bill is a bill and it needs to be paid, but I don't really see it being extensively right to make the occupants of these parcels whose driveway is connected to 23rd Street to the full amount of $4,500. It is inconsiderate to inform the tenants of these parcels must be paid in full by October 31st to avoid daily interest at 5.672%. 23rd Street is similarly used like 5th Street Southeast off Willmar Avenue Southeast, especially in the evenings by individuals who like to travel faster than the posted speed limit. You may be asking yourself how I know this, how I would know this. The way to tell residents versus cut-through vehicles is rate of speed and awareness of areas on 23rd Street in which have children, elderly, and animals. I feel that it would be fair for myself, but also residents whose driveway is connected to 23rd Street to pay amount less than half of $4,500 for the road not being 100% used as just only a residential road. For a new road and a largely costing project, one would expect not to be able to see previous problem areas left and broken areas to still be existing. Sincerely, residents of 405 23rd Street Southeast, Willmar, Mitch Ossen, and Hannah Lang. And he has photos of the street repairs that he said were not completed. Last letter is parcel number 959164020. It says to the city of Willmar, below is a list of reasons stating why I should not have to pay for the roads around my property. I'm only one person. I can't afford to pay $14,142.50 plus interest. I will not have any extra money to fall back on if my taxes go up. I will not have a savings. In the letter I received, it states that persons 65 years of age or older or retired by virtue of a permanent and total disability for whom it would be a hardship to make the payments do not have to pay. If I have to pay, I will be in a hardship. West Central Steel is an $82 million company. $14,142.50 is nothing to them, but everything to me. They should be the one paying for the roads. A semi can weigh between 25,000 to 80,000 pounds. My car weighs less than 3,900 pounds. Their semis are the one damaging the roads, not my car. City decided to widen both roads, which means I have lost a part of my property to the road. Below is a list of expenses, inconveniences caused by the road construction. Wrecking my home and home tennis shoes in the mud from the road, $170. Having to replace a flange on my car from the potholes, $180. Loss of wages from being late to work. At the end of the construction, there has only been one way I could get to work, which was across the train tracks. Half the time there was a train and I was late to work. Also, having my water shut off without any warning has caused me to be late to work twice. One of the construction workers was filling up a water container using my outside faucet without my permission. I know of 3 instances that this has occurred. There could be more when I was not at home and did not know about, $400. I have had to pick up plastic water bottles, pop cans, chip bags, and other trash from my yard left by the workers, $50. Since the water has been shut off, somehow my soft and hard water faucets have been switched, which caused an inconvenience, and I will have to pay to get them fixed. As I stated earlier in this letter, I am only one person who lives on a budget, but if I have to pay $14,142.50, I will be in a hardship. I'm asking the council and the city to please reconsider the amount I owe. Thank you, Natasha Knudsen. And that concludes the letters that I received.
And what was the address on that one?
There is no address supplied.
1725 Gordon Avenue.
What?
1725 Gordon Avenue.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so that's all of the comments.
Yep.
Staff will be reviewing. Audrey?
I'm just curious, I see other people in the room who haven't spoken, if they can be given an opportunity at this time if they want to speak.
I just have one more question. When will we know if they change anything?
How soon can staff get back to?
We will get back, I would say, within a week at best, sometime next week.
And that only allows people 8 to 10 days to come up with that kind of cash? I'm just asking. If you could come up with $20,000 cash in 8 to 10 days?
I'm sorry, but I don't write the state
You
statute.
guys need to understand this. This is very tough for people. They're trying to, make payments on their homes, raise kids, do stuff. Think about that. Can all of you come up with $20,000 in 8 days? Even if I had to come up with it, I'd have to get out of my investments. I can't get it out of them in 8 to 10 days. So everybody needs to be aware of that.
You want to explain the
Right.
process?
So they'll get back to you. Robert, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I do. I can help the mayor and council. I can help with the just logistics and how to proceed. I do think it'd be appropriate, given the full room tonight, to ask if anyone else who came for the public hearing wishes to address the council before we proceed.
Okay. Is there anybody else that wants to speak?
I do, well, please come ahead. While she's walking, I just wanted to mention that for anybody that's out there listening that had sent in, that we did receive a letter that was forwarded to the city administrator concerning Calvary Church and the Gorton Avenue assessments.
Okay, your name, please?
Nicole Cones. I live on Gorton Avenue, 2213. And basically, I'm echoing what everyone else has said. I just moved to Willmar 1 year ago, last October. Bought the home on Gorton. So this was all a surprise to me. I don't know if I have something to take up with the seller or the realtor, but I didn't know it was happening. So like others have said, it was a letter in the mail with a very short deadline with a large number, $8,975. So that's a challenge, and I really don't want to be paying more interest. Just paid off those student loans. So Just another community member echoing what everyone else is saying.
What was your last name, Nicole?
Cones, K-O-N-Z,
K-O-N-Z, and your house number?
2213 Gorton Avenue.
Okay, thank you. Justin?
Just to clarify previous comments by Councilmember Osmus, the two of us received that email from Calvary, and I forwarded it to the mayor, the clerk, and the city administrator.
Is that something that's going to be read to us?
If it's a letter, it needs to be read.
Certainly can. Just received at 7:52 today.
Okay, I guess it was just received at 7:52 this evening. Councilmember Osk and Councilmember Osmus. I've been asked by Calvary Church to express our concerns on the Gorton Avenue assessments. I had hoped to attend the hearing but could not make it. Below are our concerns. Proposed assessment of $26,170 equates to 25% of the city's estimated value. A bill of that magnitude is a severe blow to the operation of the cemetery. It is maintained by volunteers and has an annual budget of around $4,000. Proposed assessment is almost 6 times the annual budget. Paying it annually over 15 years would result in a 65% increase to the cemetery's operating expenses. Number 2, cemeteries are unique, sacred parcels of land. Willmar has at least 5 within the city limits. In most cases, their only income is derived from donations from bereaved family members with loved ones buried there or a perpetual care fund funded by donations. While not owned by the city, they are community assets that at some point will be needed by all of us. How cemeteries are assessed should be reviewed before any action is taken on the pending assessment. Number 3, the computations as it pertains to the allocation for the upgrade of the road from a standard road to a concrete road should be reviewed and analyzed. West Central Steel is the only property owner who wants or needs that type of road, and they specifically requested it and supposedly agreed to pay for the upgrade. They own approximately 2,800 lineal feet along the road, yet they are being assessed for only 1,130 feet. The proposed calculation is clearly within city policy of assessing the shorter side of a rectangular parcel. However, in this case, only one taxpayer has requested the improvement, and only one taxpayer will benefit from it. At $176.25 per lineal foot for concrete, the difference is $295,000. West Central should be assessed the entire 2,800 feet as the sole beneficiary and prorate those additional funds against the assessments of all of the other parcels involved. Number 4, no matter what is decided, Calvary will pay their assessment. A greater concern is Fairview Cemetery and their $82,000. This could be the first step in the city getting into the cemetery business. Dwayne Amundson.
Staff, was West Central Steel charged any different, assessed any different?
Evening, Mayor Council. That was a topic that came up a couple times this evening. West Central Steel paid the full increase between bituminous and concrete. Their assessment has been adjusted by that amount, and yes, they are paying for the concrete.
Audrey?
That letter or email addressed the feet that they were, the front footage that they were paying, is he correct in the email that he sent? That they aren't being assessed the full?
There are a number of West Central Steel assessments on here. I just want to find them all. One parcel is 1,295.5 feet. Another parcel is 1,186.5 feet. A third parcel is 334.5 feet. And I don't recall if I'm missing one more.
I believe he was referencing like pie-shaped adjustments. Corner lot?
I'm not sure which parcel that would be right now off the top here. I guess I'm not sure which piece or parcel that they're referring to that got the special adjustment. I'm not seeing it in my records here.
Oh, this is exactly. Okay.
So West Central does have parcels on the corners, of Gorton and 19th. The streets that are not improved, like 19th, south of Gorton, they wouldn't be assessed for that. There's no reason, there's no improvement there. So maybe that's what the email is referring to.
So which street is that between
19th.
the old Plywood, Minnesota and the steel?
Floor to ceiling.
Oh, yeah, floor to ceiling. Because they redid that in concrete a few years ago, and they paid extra for that.
Correct.
So,
Yep. They were assessed at that time.
I have another question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, go ahead, Rick.
So when people are finding imperfections in their street now, who do they call?
Well, they can call me, and depending on the type of project, if it's a mill and overlay, so with a mill and overlay project, it's a pavement improvement, right? Areas of curb and gutter that were settled or plow hazards were removed and replaced. In the mill and overlay project, there is still water sitting in some curbs. The solution for eliminating that would be a total reconstruction, which definitely wouldn't further council's goal of bringing all the streets in Willmar up to standards within a 50-year, I think 50 years is what the last analysis was, time frame. So the imperfections referenced specifically in the letters submitted this afternoon identified some chips and curb within the mill and overlay area, a couple areas where some water is sitting. So those were not intended to be addressed with the project. If council would like to address them, we can certainly bring a change order back to council for consideration. However, that's outside of the existing scope of the project, and they're not planned to be addressed.
When you say mill and overlay, you just take the top layer off?
Mill and overlay are the reclaim areas that were completed, yep.
But on a street where they go down 18, 20 inches, and then put fabric and then bring in new gravel, it isn't a reconstruct, but it's more than a mill and overlay.
Yes.
Well, that's where the issue is on a couple of driveways. It's ponding.
In the
You have to
curb.
sweep it every day because you got people with sprinkler systems.
Yeah, and that can be addressed.
You got to talk to you then.
Well, I can certainly bring it back before council. I mean, it's going to have to be
Whose
decided.
fault would that be? Would it be bad surveying? Would it be bad workmanship? Or what?
For the water in the curb?
Ponding, so it doesn't go down the curb. You have to sweep it. And to fix it, I was told 40 to 50 feet have to be replaced to the curb.
Correct.
So That sounds like a workmanship problem to me. You can eyeball it, and you can see the new curb that they replaced is 1 inch to 2 inches higher, so the water can't flow. Unless you get 3-4 inches of rain, and it goes, but then it sits. So,
I have a question. Is it just the total reconstructs where you'll come in the next year? There's still another layer that has to go on?
Yes.
Okay, not that kind of road that just had like feet done? Okay.
Oh,
so it's more than an imperfection.
okay, we can bring that back.
Well, I'm just saying.
Yeah, and I think with any mill and overlay projects moving forward, we'll want some clear direction as to how in-depth we get. I mean, there's numerous areas throughout the project area that I just drove through there in our last rain event, and there is some curb that's definitely holding water, but the intent of a mill and overlay was never to replace all the curb and eliminate all the drainage sitting in the curb line. It was simply a pavement improvement, so.
But if you have water sitting there and you don't do nothing about it, it's gonna eat away the asphalt. So you'll be filling potholes.
If it's sitting on the pavement, yes.
That's what's happening. So
Okay.
I'm sure you have errors and omissions insurance, and the contractor does too.
Anybody else? All right, staff will address it and get back to them. Anything else, Jared?
I do not.
All right, thank you.
Mayor, we'll want to continue the process, close the public hearing.
All right,
Actually, Mayor, I'm sorry, before you close the public hearing, I'd like to kind of run through the council's options at this stage.
yeah, please.
Under the statute that sets forth the procedure for conducting this hearing, the council has a couple options. You are required to essentially rule on, under the statutory language, pass upon each objection that has been raised at the public hearing tonight in person or by letter that was read into the record. You can do that tonight, in which case you should do that before closing the public hearing. The other option you have under the statute would be to continue the public hearing only with respect to the, I've got about 13 objections that need to be addressed, and come back at a future council meeting, continue the public hearing until that meeting, and hear further review from staff and your engineer on whether any adjustments appear to be warranted based on the comments made either in person tonight or in a letter that was read into the record. I believe that the city administrator is recommending the latter option, that you continue the public hearing for the, I'll double check the number. I have 13 commenters or letter writers who I would consider to have objected to their assessments. So the recommendation, I believe, from administration would be to continue the public hearing for those 13 properties, close the public hearing otherwise, and pass the assessment roll, subject to any modifications made at the continued hearing.
I don't know how many letters Judy had.
Well, five.
Four.
5 counting the email.
That's more than 13.
I had 11, under my notes here, 11 individuals who addressed the council in person tonight, 4 who wrote letters, getting 15 people who made comments, and of those 15, I thought there were 2 that simply asked questions and were provided explanations and had not actually articulated an objection.
Okay, Chris Jensen and Deb Magnuson from Fairview Cemetery that were one.
Would you like me to run through the commenters that I consider to have made objections? That was the first one I had noted, you're correct.
Yeah, do that.
Okay. I have records of objections from Chris, and I apologize, I may have misheard a name here or there, but I believe Chris Nelson Jensen and Deb Magnuson from Fairview Cemetery Association as one. Tony Lepatka on Gordon Avenue as two. Brad Service on 20th Street Northwest and Gorton Avenue, a corner lot, as three. Matt Schrupp on 23rd Street and 10th Avenue, a corner lot, as four. Craig Gertzema at 2100 Gorton Avenue as five. Don and Eileen Tweet, and I didn't catch their address or street. Gorton Avenue.
2108 Gorton Avenue.
That'd be the sixth objection. Jay Halliday at 423rd Avenue Southeast is the seventh. And then four letters that were read into the record by City Clerk Thompson. Jeremiah Brensdell, Richard Hess, Mitch Assen, and Natasha Knudsen, which will get us up to 11. And we had the letter from Calvary Church referenced and read into the record as well. As the 12th, and Nicole Combs, who addressed the council at the end as the 13th objection. So again, the recommendation would be to continue the hearing for those 13 properties, and I believe is it the recommendation that those be heard at the work session scheduled for Monday? Yes. Monday, October 23rd, same time, at 6:30 p.m.
Okay, so we continue the hearing to that?
So I would recommend two motions. One, to continue the hearing for the 13 properties who've objected as read into the record until Monday, October 23rd at 6:30 p.m. Here or at City Hall?
You got 8 days.
City Hall.
At City Hall.
Wouldn't it be better if we moved to utilities for more room if they come than at City Hall?
I will have to check to see if it's available.
Or the fire hall? You know, if we get all these
See if
people.
it's available.
Okay, so continue through to 10:23, and what was the second one?
First motion is continue the public hearing for the 13 properties that have objected until Monday, October 23rd at 6:30 p.m. at City Hall. If it's a different location, we will need to provide notice to the 13 property owners.
That was it?
That's the motion. That's motion one, and then we can talk about motion two after that. Motion two would be to approve the assessment roll, subject to revisions of those 13 properties assessments.
Audrey?
Yeah, I just wondered if we were just going to have a fundamental conversation. I'm feeling uncomfortable about a couple of things, and they remind me of last year. And I know Jared mentioned, Mr. Vogie mentioned that there was basically a 5% increase in costs over last year, if I heard him correctly. But these assessment figures are definitely higher than 5%, in my estimation. With that, I'm still troubled by corner lots, and we had that conversation last year, and I thought we were going to be reviewing that. We have not reviewed that, and they're coming back at kind of troublesome, I think, this year. With that, I think the cemeteries are maybe a fundamental question for the council also, that I don't know if we need to provide some direction or ask some questions on that, with that. And I'm still troubled about, I know there's a responsibility to the assessments versus improved value, whether we're meeting that test of, and that was stated multiple times by people that my property didn't improve by the amount of the assessment, or they don't feel that way. And so those are just questions that are in my head, and I don't know how we are going to address those just with dealing with those few properties with that.
Robert?
I think the question raised by Councilmember Nelson is firmly a question for the council to decide. I guess what I'd just offer as insight would be if the council is really considering unique circumstances for these 13 properties that have objected and thinks that any alterations to the assessment as stated in the roll before you tonight would be due to unique circumstances for those properties, it would be appropriate to, as I recommended or as staff recommended, continue the hearing for those 13 properties and approve the rest of the assessment roll tonight. If you think that the council isn't comfortable with the methodology for entire streets or portions of the project, then it would probably be advisable for you to just continue the hearing and consider the broader policy questions for the assessments globally at your next meeting. But I guess you have received objections from 13 property owners looking at the assessment roll. I think there were hundreds of properties that were assessed. So I think the circumstances this year just numerically are a little different. But again, this is completely a question for council to decide if you want to revisit the methodology for the entire assessment roll or any specific, project within the assessment roll, or if you're comfortable just proceeding to consider whether there are unique circumstances for the 13 properties that objected and approve the rest of the properties tonight.
Council?
Mayor?
Tom?
We kind of had this issue last year with opening and closing. We were going to continue 6th Street in Charlotte. And then when it came on the agenda, it wasn't there. We had to reopen that up. I made it to open it back up, and Councilmember Osmith second to open the whole thing back up. So if we're going to do this for 13, let's do this right like we did last year. Let's continue the whole thing, get it all done, and get it all done at once. And that way we all know, as a council right now, everything's on the table. And because last time I took the brunt of it for opening it up from the last mayor and stuff like that. But I'm man of my word. If we say we're going to do something, we need to do it. So let's do it for all the taxpayers on this, not just for a certain few. Keep it all open.
I either need a motion to continue on the 13 properties or extend. Would you extend it beyond that?
I think the council's options right now are continuing the hearing just for the 13 properties and otherwise closing the hearing so that when you come back in a week that your task is to address the assessments for the 13 properties that have objected, or I guess just continue the hearing another week for everybody.
A week or 2 weeks?
A week till 23rd.
I think in either case, the recommendation is to reconvene at the work session scheduled for 1 week from tonight.
Okay. Justin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess my concern is if we're opening it up to everyone, when we meet new objections a week from now, staff does not have that same luxury of time to really, look at the objections that have come before us. I appreciate that time that they're going to invest between now and then. And I think everyone was made aware of this. You know, we heard from numerous members of the community that came and spoke to us here. We've received letters, we've received emails. I want to be able, when we're listening to those objections, to have the staff have done their homework and bring us the details behind this. So I'd make the motion to continue the hearing for the 13 properties that we've received objections for on October 23rd. Do you want a location, Robert?
I'll defer to administration on where that should be. I heard City Hall, but some other possibilities would be explored.
Right now, we'll make it City Hall.
At City Hall.
Yes.
Okay, we have a second?
Second.
Got a motion, a second. Audrey?
I would request that that be considered a special council meeting, not a work session.
Yes.
Because
it
our
will be.
protocol has been not to vote at work sessions.
You're correct. It'll be a council meeting.
Okay,
It's a continuation of this meeting.
okay. Julie?
I just wanted to make a clarification that in the example about 6th Street from last year, 6th Street Southwest, that had to do with recalculating all of those property owners, and some of it had to do with the previous work that had been done on that street. So it was a little different circumstances than what we're dealing with this year.
Okay, so, Audrey?
Just a clarification, so staff will come back. I'm still concerned about the direction for cemeteries and also our exposure to the assessed versus improved value with that. And we'll just deal with that next week. Is that what we're saying? And it will only apply to the 13.
That's what the motion is. If you're ready, we'll just move on.
Got to vote.
Because we got a motion to continue. Does the council vote? I mean, he made a motion. Does the council vote on that motion? Oh, you did? Okay. You're ahead of me.
I'm still waiting on a couple. Mayor, I would suggest that you close the hearing for the other properties.
Let's see how this vote goes.
Pardon me?
See how this vote goes first.
Okay.
Is that your advice too, Robert?
My advice would be, you've got a motion to continue the hearing for 13 properties, and let's see how that vote turns out before we
Okay,
decide what to do next.
all right.
Just waiting on Councilmember Nelson. You want to do a voice vote?
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries 7 ayes, 1 nay. Councilmember Butterfield voted no.
Okay. So now what do we do with the remaining?
In that case, Mayor, I would recommend declaring that the public hearing is closed for the remainder of the properties who did not object.
Okay. Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Go ahead and vote.
That motion carries 8 ayes, 0 nays.
Okay. All right.
And then, Mayor, if I can chime in, I would also recommend that the council adopt the assessment roll, subject to any modifications made for the 13 properties who have objected.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions?
And
Audrey?
I did just have one question. I know under the budgetary fiscal issues, it said that they include local option sales tax, and I was just wondering which project was the local option sales tax was used on.
Gordon Avenue. The policy of the council to date has been to only use local option sales tax funds on improvements to the storm sewer system, not replacement of that system. And Gordon Avenue is that project for the 2023 improvements.
Thank you.
So just for clarification, then that meant that the assessments were lowered because some of that cost was incurred by the local option sales tax, correct?
Yes.
Okay. If there's not any more questions, go ahead and vote.
Okay, that motion carried, 8 ayes, 0 nays.
Okay. I'm going to call for a 5-minute recess. It's awful warm in here. MnDOT District future Trunk Highway 12 reconstruction and our 10th Street semaphore discussion.
All right, good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Philip DeShepper out of District 8 here, MnDOT. Last we talked, I was here in June. We talked about the 60% layout. There's a lot of discussion about the signal at 10th Street. Since then, we've completed the 90% layout. We actually have a common resolution meeting on that next week. And then we did hold a open house for this project back in July 13th. And one of the bigger comments from that meeting, there wasn't too many people that showed up, but the 10th Street signal did come up at that open house. Since then, we've looked at it. We've looked at the traffic data, talked to the district traffic engineer. MnDOT still doesn't think that signal meets warrant, so we won't pay for it. But if the District 8 traffic engineer will allow the city to put in the signal, as long as the city is willing to fund it and maintain it for the future.
Tom?
I don't understand how this, we got more vehicles on the road than we did back when that road was first built. And my other concern is, right now, we're fighting to get a 4-lane going to St. Cloud. Happen when they want to do a 4-lane going east to west now. Now we're condensing that, gonna be down. I'm still gonna be fighting this 10th Street light no matter what. I even have people want the 3rd Street on there to go into the railroad. I think the highway department has to go back and take a relook at this and get this right. There's too much, and you heard people here on Gorton Avenue tonight. It's a highway over there when the train's there. It's needed. It's safety. Are you willing to take the blame for anybody that will be killed there trying to walk across there when there's a train getting done and everything else like that?
I don't know what the decision is here. Is the city for the signal? Because they have the option to install it.
It's there right now. If we don't go with your plan to make it to reduce, and we keep it as is to redo it, it stays up then, correct?
Well, that part of municipal consent is that the city has to sign off on the layout that we've been working on. So if we don't get municipal consent, everything will stay the same, and it'll just be a concrete rehab and a mill and overlay with ADA improvements.
Yeah, and that's basically probably what you'll get out of my vote would be as is right now, just mill overlay or do whatever else without it.
Well, this is for information only right now. Audrey?
Well, right now, I guess I'm trying to provide the option that if the city wants the signal at 10th Street for this 3-lane option, that MnDOT is okay with the signal being there as long as the city pays to install it and maintain it in the future.
I pay license tax, I pay gas tax, so does everybody else in Willmar. Go through Litchfield, how many stoplights have they got going on Highway 12 through Litchfield? There's probably.
And the city
half a dozen.
paid for one of those too on their most recent reconstruct.
Yep, but, it's needed there. You guys are ones that wanna redo the road that way. It's needed there. It's a huge safety concern.
There was a study completed in 2014 that the city, county, and MnDOT
I
participated
studied
in.
for tests too, thought I was gonna ace them and I failed
Okay.
them. And there's times I'd never studied for a test and I aced it. It goes back and forth. My logic says, from what I seen, there's gonna be a lot of accidents there. And it is needed.
Councilmember Nelson?
I have a couple questions floating around. You said the study was done in 2014?
2014, the study was completed, and then we re-looked at it to start this when we got the.
A couple of years ago.
Huh?
A couple of years ago.
Yeah, when we got the letter of support to move ahead with the 3-lane option from the city.
Okay. I just have to speak up for the biking and walking. That's the designated crossway that has been looked at to avoid 7th Street. And so is there anything that can be done to letters of support or for that 10th Street that the city could do?
For
with
what?
that?
For the signal?
To keep the signal.
The city can keep it as long as they pay for it.
But that's if I remember right, when we were looking at another signal, it's over $250,000, isn't it?
Signal, we were estimating at 300,000 construction costs, and then with construction engineering, it'd be 324,000. And party municipal consent is that, the state provides a good faith estimate for everything. You get manhole adjustment, gate valve adjustments, whatever else there may be per the cost participation policy.
If I'm reading between the lines, you're the messenger, and the message is you're not going to do it. And if we want it, we need to do it, right?
Well, we talked about it, and I think I stated back in when I was here in June that, the only way the signal can go in when it doesn't meet warrants is that the district traffic engineer has to approve it. And he said, and he approved that he's okay with it. With that approval, though, the city has to pay for it and maintain it. And, it's like the signal, there's not really a good one for example here, but just say 10th Street met warrants and was gonna go in, the city would have had to pay 50% of that light because, the city street is on two legs, MnDOT trunk highway is on two legs. So, if you wanna look at it differently, you could say it's just a 50% increase.
Councilmember Osk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just wanting to make sure I understand the history of this at this point. We've already approved the reduction to 3 lanes. We have not. Okay.
No, we don't, we're at 90% layout, next would be 100% layout. Then after that, we would work with the city to get municipal consent.
Okay, thank you.
And I felt like the last meeting, kind of this 10th Street signal was
It's going to be the holdup.
So on the 10th Street signal, excuse me, this is based on a study that was done 9 years ago?
No, that was more so for the 3-lane conversion. That was based on the 2014 study. We re-looked at it in 2021. That's when we did traffic counts. A comment came up, if COVID affected the traffic counts. Regardless, you can look at the trend on Trunk Highway 12, that traffic has been going down. And if COVID did play a factor in the traffic counts, we just don't take those numbers, we kind of look at the trend. And
So it has been looked at more recently than 2014?
Yes.
Okay.
That was when the study was completed. We really looked at it to make sure the 3-lane was still a viable option for the traffic on Trunk Highway 12.
Anything else? So are you looking for?
I guess I'm just curious if since we're going from a 90% layout to a 100% layout, do we show the signal at 10th Street? Is the city willing, to accept the cost and the maintenance for that signal?
Who's the one behind, who wants to redo this? Is it the city or the state, MnDOT?
The question was asked when we started this project, that we had no preference. That we relied on the study from 2014, re-looked at it, before
So
we
in
started the layout.
2014, whose idea was to redo 12? The cities or MnDOT's?
I think the city, the county, and the state all participated in the study.
But who wanted to redo the road, though?
What do you mean redo it? Like
Did the city
resurface
want
it?
Highway 12 redone? Or did MnDOT
I'm not
want-
aware.
Well, we need to figure that out before, we sit there and say the city should pay 100%. Because if it was MnDOT wants to redo this road, then MnDOT should pay for it. If the city back in 2014 said, hey, let's redo Highway 12, yeah, then I can see the city having to pay for the light. But if this is MnDOT's idea, MnDOT should cover it as, just like my property was redone. I'm not satisfied with the lawn. I got weeds, everybody has weeds, I don't know what we're gonna be doing with it. I would like my property back in just as good as condition before this road construction started. Now I'm looking out for every taxpayer, because now every taxpayer in Willmar is gonna have to pay for this. Versus where it's MnDOT, it's the whole state. where we're already paying taxes in the whole state, and we're at a budget. We're at way over exceeding tax revenues. Here in Willmar, we're raising rates when we can't afford to do it. Now you're asking us to raise it for a signal for everybody in Willmar?
Councilmember
Well,
Nelson.
you'd be saving one, the one on Third would come out.
Councilmember Nelson.
Yeah, and all I'm asking for is one on 10th for you guys to pay because.
But we have to follow policy, cost participation policy. You know, we just don't, the state just doesn't go around and people say, I want a stoplight there, and we put a signal in. You know, we have to follow policy.
Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor Reese. I just want to go on record, very supportive of the reconstruction and the 3-lane concept and the safety. I'm very supportive of that, and the ADA things that need to be done. And then we were aware that we were going to have to pay for half of the light for a long time. Is that true?
For which signal?
The 10th Street?
No.
Were we aware of that?
I think that was kind of the discussion brought up at like the June 5th meeting.
Okay, so just this year.
Mm-hmm.
Aware of that. Okay, all right. But I just want to make sure that we aren't throwing everything out, because I think that the reconstruction is very important, and we'll have
I
to
would call it
deal
a
with
resurfacing.
Resurfacing, thank you. Okay.
Because it'll be a concrete pavement rehab and then a mill and overlay.
But more than that, some of the ADA things.
The ADA will be, right now it'll be fully reconstructed.
Yes.
If it stays a 3-lane.
Okay, thank you.
The three entities that went through the study are the county, the city, and the state.
Yep.
And they decided,
I don't know if they decided, it was just more of a recommendation based on the traffic
Yeah.
volumes and.
because you're coming to us right now, so, yeah, recommendation.
Well, we kind of covered this early on. We got that letter of support from the city council to pursue this 3-lane option because we have to get the layout, and then we have to get municipal consent. You know, so if there was no desire back then, we would have just, we wouldn't even have been here. We would have just done that plan in-house, and it would have gone back the way it was.
But I was trying to feel out the council if there is feeling for it now. Councilmember Osk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In an attempt to let you build towards consensus, I'll echo Councilmember Nelson's comments. I appreciate the work that you've done. I'm very supportive of the 3-lane design. I think it's going to greatly improve traffic flow and safety here in the city. Furthermore, I will trust MnDOT knows what they're doing when they tell us that the stoplight isn't warranted. So that's where I'm at.
Julie?
Just so that I'm clear, is the $325,000 for that 10th Street stoplight, is that the half cost?
That would be the full cost.
Okay, so if I understood correctly, you're saying that we would only be paying half?
So I was trying to say that if, say that signal was warranted on 10th Street, that MnDOT, it met warrants and MnDOT was going to fund that signal. MnDOT would fund 50% of it because we have, Trunk Highway 12 is 2 legs, 10th Street is 2 legs, so it'd be a 50-50 split. But it doesn't meet warrants, but we will allow it, but it's going to be full cost on the city.
What do we have to do to convince the state that it's warranted?
I don't know if you could. You'd have to add a lot more traffic to that intersection.
I asked Jim Felt, Chief of Police, if he would do a traffic count over there this summer after our meeting, and he said he was going to look into it. Jim, did that get done by the city?
We discussed it at the city level, but we had not implemented the count yet. We were just waiting for their instructions.
So would a compromise option be to put a crosswalk there where you have a light that flashes where traffic has to stop. I know that's less than ideal as opposed to the semaphore, but
Like an RRFB?
yeah.
That'd be another discussion we'd have to have with traffic. Once we hit the design phase of this project, more than likely traffic will, we'll meet with the city, discuss where pedestrian crossings should be, where we'll mark them, kind of where they make sense, where people are walking to and from, where they're crossing the road. But I'll leave that up to traffic. That would still be a city cost, though.
And then as well, I'll support the 3-lane. I like that idea. I don't like losing that traffic control at 10th, but I understand if MnDOT's not going to do it, I don't want to trash the project for that reason.
All right. Anybody else? If I don't hear anything, Rick, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So that light must have been warranted at some time then.
That's a good question. I don't know what policy was back when they did that.
But they just redid Highway 12 west of town, put a roundabout. I can't believe there's less traffic now.
I don't know the full story on that, but I would imagine a roundabout is safer than a traffic signal. Is probably some of it.
Oh, so you want to put a roundabout there then?
I did not say that.
Well, I know when I'm west end of town, I'm not driving all the way to 7th Street to go across and then go back to Gordon or Campbell or that way. I cross at 10th Street. And to me, it's a very busy intersection.
10th Street?
Yes.
Very busy.
And you got people walking across the railroad tracks coming into town, and they need stop and go light to get across. So I don't see the logic with the state.
The project was built with 7th and 3rd Street signals. The initial so-called bypass through town. The 10th Street semaphore was added at a much later date.
Because people used to be stopping at 11th Street, right by the bridge. And that wasn't safe, so we brought it over to 10th Street.
Vicki?
When is this project supposed to be done?
Right now we're at a 2029 construction lit, December of 29. But our process is long. With an ADA project through downtown, there's a lot of parcels impacted that we have to get easements for or right away. That leads into, we need to know our impacts. That's kind of what we're working towards is our right-of-way impacts. That way we'll know our right-of-way impacts. We can start the right-of-way process, which starts environmental, which this corridor through Willmar has a high potential, as you guys are aware of with that Block 25. There's contamination through here, so it just takes time.
At your July meeting, I wasn't able to get there due to some circumstance with my son with baseball and stuff. Now, you said that 10th Street light was brought up there. How many people were for removing it?
I don't know if any of them were, but there was.
Okay. But there was a number of people.
15 people at the meeting.
And out of those 15 people, how many were concerned with that?
I'd have to look at the notes to get the numbers.
Estimate 1, 2, 5, 8?
I'd have to look at the numbers.
Okay. I think if there was one concern from 15 people, it's warranted to be there. And if this city council does not see that there's other people concerned about this 10th Street light, they're not doing the city of Willmar justice.
Vicki?
I think since we have until 2029, we could probably budget for the light.
Yeah.
I think we need one there, and we have plenty of time.
You'll get a better idea of the construction costs, because it'll be more than just the signal. once we go through that municipal consent.
I'm not sure what you just told me.
I guess all I'm hearing is the signal at 325,000. The city will have more cost associated with this project. That's, like I said, the gate valves, manholes adjustments, whatever else there could be with the cost participation. We just don't have it broke down to that detail yet.
So you can't.
It'd be no different if we did a mill and overlay and a concrete pavement rehab. You guys would still have costs with that project. It's the same thing. It's gate valves, manholes.
I understand.
You can't give us a guarantee that it's gonna be 325 today for 20 years?
It's a good faith estimate.
So it's gonna be more like 550 or 600,000.
Okay.
Who knows?
Okay,
Julie?
I'm not understanding why manhole covers and catch basins have anything to do with the streetlights. That would be part of the road construction project anyway.
Sanitary manholes are city utility. They're there by permit. Same with water main. It's a city utility.
Right, but what does that have to do with whether or not there's going to be traffic signals?
I'm just saying that's going to be involved in the overall
It's
cost.
going to be another added expense that we're going to be dealing with because of that project,
Same with any project. Like when we
which
did
we would have had anyway.
Domino's out to close to Bolton and Maine.
Okay.
I think there was 2 manholes. It was $2,400.
Yeah, which we would be having anyway. I mean, I think the issue is the streetlights. The traffic signal.
I don't know where to go with this.
It's just,
Yeah, it's information only, there's no.
Well, I guess do you guys want the signal shown on the 100% layout at 10th Street?
I would say yes.
I would say yes.
Yes.
And then we budget for it, like Councilmember Davis said.
Just putting it on the layout commit us to anything?
Not till we do municipal consent.
And when's that?
That'll be the next process after. We would like to get into an agreement of a layout, that we know the city council approves. Then we would do municipal consent.
Are we talking a year or two?
It all depends. Depends if there's, if it's how supportive it is, if there's pushback or. But then, once municipal consent is obtained from the city, if that project, say we get it, 6 months from now, and we pick up design in 2026, there are really no changes then to that layout. There could be minor changes, but the state won't go through municipal consent again. We could talk about, an intersection changing, we need a bump out or something, but.
But if you come back to us later on and we decide that we don't want it, then what?
Then it's gonna go through as a 3-lane, because we got municipal consent.
Well.
I mean, I guess.
Then we leave it with it in right now, I would say.
Okay, we'll put her in. Any other questions?
I would hit home is like a 50-50 here with the city council. 50% of the city council wants the state to pay, for a portion of it. 50%, wants the city to pay for all of it. But I would bring that up because look at what MnDOT did with the overpass bridge after the roundabout. You almost go flying off of that when you go on the apron over that bridge over there. It's just one little thing MnDOT did wrong over there. Now
Well, I
we're
think
talking
the
about-
contractor fixed it.
Oh, did they fix it now?
The contractor fixed it.
Okay. what last report I heard, it was like almost like Dukes of Hazzard over there. If you're doing 55, you better be holding on.
All right. So you got your,
Yeah, we'll show it on the layout. We'll be in touch between now and 100, and or at least with city staff, and review the layout. And then I'm sure we'll bring the layout. We'll bring the 100% layout and start municipal consent in the future, near future.
all right.
All right.
Thank you, Philip.
Thank you.
All right, next is health insurance premium increase. Luann? This going to be easier?
Yeah, I promise. So, good evening, Mayor, Council members. We just are recommending an increase to the city's health insurance premiums for 2024. As we all know, health insurance costs just keep going up. And so we have the costs that are on that sheet for you there this year. Single costs went up 5.47%, family costs went up 5.36%. Just requesting that the city increase theirs by about half of that, so 2.5%. So for both single and family, and the employees will absorb the rest. So that would be for all city employees, so that we're all on the same scale.
So we need a motion.
To approve an increase in health insurance premiums for 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Motion.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question. This is a city cost, not an employee cost.
You're voting to increase the city's portion,
Yeah.
and with that, the employees are also paying a portion of that, so.
Okay.
Any other questions? Go ahead and vote.
I'm just going to state that I will abstain. I'm going to click that as a past city employee. That benefits from the health insurance.
Councilmember Fagerly, would you want to do a voice vote?
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries 7 ayes and 1 abstain.
Okay. Thank you, Luann.
Yes, thank you.
All right, preliminary engineering report. Jared?
Evening, Mayor, Council. A while back, council authorized the preparation of a preliminary engineering report. That report's been prepared. This is the first step in the assessment process associated with improvements, is receiving the preliminary engineering report. I do have some slides here. I'll go through them relatively briefly. As you recall, if council schedules a public hearing for the November 20th meeting, which is what the resolution and the recommendation in your packets is this evening, this will be presented again, and prior to that, we'll have an open house for all the project areas. So if you do have questions as I'm going through this and you feel like I'm going too fast, just let me know, but I also recognize that it's been a lengthy meeting already tonight. So the areas planned for reconstruction as part of the 2024 improvements include 10th Street, and I'll show a map here on the next slide. 10th Street Northwest, 13th Grace and Rice, those are the improvements that were removed from the 2023 improvement project. 20th Street and 2nd Avenue Southeast. And then we do have some overlay improvements that are identified. And it's easier to show you those on the map rather than listing those all out. Also wanted to point out that the county will be doing some overlay improvements in 2024. So that will be on this map in just a second. As you recall, some years we have parking lots and path constructions. 2024 is no different. We've identified the Thompson Park parking lot and the Ella Avenue path. There's a short section of path near Ella Avenue that is in disrepair along with that parking lot. The 19th Avenue path improvement project is the project which the city successfully obtained $500,000 grant for a portion of that construction. So that has been identified. And then Civic Center parking lot improvement project near the Civic Center, obviously, with the potential, given the grant associated with the trailhead improvements, with the potential for a second phase of that. And then the seal coat improvement project, which would occur on Airport Road, Lakeland Drive, 25th Street, and 20th Southeast. So the map on your screen shows you the various projects that are contemplated to be improved. The long green lines I just wanted to point out are the county mill and overlay projects that have been identified. So if you start in the upper left-hand corner, the reclaim and overlay portion, that's to 7th Avenue, 29th, and 8th. Then as you move to the south part of the city, you see some yellow there, that's seal coating on 20th and 25th, and then some light blue and darker blues, the 21st, 22nd, 24th areas have been identified for mill and overlay. The dark red line on the bottom, near the bottom of that slide, is the 19th Avenue path improvements. That is the extension of a bituminous path between 15th and 5th Street. The purple in the middle of your screen is the Grace and Rice and 13th area improvements. And then just north of there is a portion of 10th Street that's been identified for street and utility reconstruction. Moving to the east, you'll see the Becker 19th, 7th, 8th, and 17th area in the dark blue. The yellow is the seal coating, crack filling and seal coating of Lakeland Drive. And then the purple or the pink in that area is a reconstruction project planned just north of the EDC office there. This slide includes additional county mill and overlay in the green, and then the Eagle Ridge Drive 32nd, 34th Avenue area, along with Fairway Drive for mill and overlay and some reclaim and overlay improvements there. Moving south, Technology Drive for reclaim and overlay, and then Transportation Road and Arena Drive in the southeast portion. So what goes into the considerations of a mill and overlay or reclaim and overlay versus a reconstruct? The utilities are one of those primary components, specifically sanitary sewer, water main, and storm sewer. The sanitary sewer within the project areas identified for reconstruction are clay pipes and concrete pipes, also brick and mortar manholes, which contribute to inflow and infiltration throughout the system. Any water that enters the sanitary sewer system that is not wastewater related must be treated by the wastewater facility, and that increases costs. Water main, we do know that there is some cast iron and asbestos cement pipes for water main in the project areas. Also storm sewer, similar to sanitary, aged clay and concrete pipes. And then the streets identified throughout the project areas, significant cracking, potholes, and settlements. So just wanted to make a point, and I know we've talked about it previously, but reconstruction areas is the total reconstruction of the entire pavement section, including the removal of concrete curb and gutter, and then the sidewalk replacement where needed, versus a overlay area, which is a pavement improvement, which replaces the pavement and spot repairs of curb and gutter and sidewalk. Existing street widths, I know this was a topic that came up previously throughout the course of some of our 2023 improvements projects. So we've included an existing street width map on this slide, identifying the street widths as they exist today. This map identifies the proposed street widths, and I just wanted to point out a couple of them for you and draw your attention to those. The 2nd Street and 20th Street Southeast area in the upper right-hand corner of the page there, the existing street width is 30 feet. The proposed street width is 32. 32 feet allows for 2 travel lanes and a parking lane, whereas 30 does not per design guidelines. And then the second one I'll point out is Grace Avenue on the lower left. Currently is a 38-foot wide street, and that's being proposed to be 36 to match the east-west width of Grace Avenue. And then lastly, 13th Street is currently 40 feet, and it's proposed to be 38. So those are the street widths contemplated in the report. And then sidewalk, also wanted to point that out. This is a familiar slide as you've seen it last year. Nonetheless, the only modification to sidewalks throughout the project area would be that section of Rice Avenue on the south side of Rice near the school. That segment, previous slide, is missing and is proposed to be added as part of the improvements. So what do the improvements look like in terms of utilities, sanitary sewer, new piping, new manholes, new services? Similarly with water main, new mains, hydrants, gate valves, water services. Storm sewer would be constructed with reinforced pipe, new manholes, and then curb and gutter. The overlay improvements, I already went through a broad overview, but this map illustrates the areas of both the county and city proposed mill and overlays. And then this is that second map that you've seen. We went through those locations. One item of note, Eagle Ridge Storm Sewer, as part of the report process, or as part of the design process, should this project move forward, additional investigation will be given to that storm sewer we have identified, and received already some calls from residents in the area, which we appreciate, with concerns relative to their storm sewer. So the earlier the better, and making everybody aware of the concerns, that's the goal. So that will be investigated further. These are typical sections, ultimately just showing the difference between a mill and overlay and a reclaim and overlay. Mill and overlay remove the top 1.5 to 2 inches of the pavement surface, whereas the reclaim and overlay grind up the existing bituminous in with the gravel section, make a stronger base, and then pave over the top of it. And again, curb and gutter is spot repaired as part of mill and overlay and reclaim and overlay improvements. Parking lot, moving on to the parking lot and path improvements, Thompson Park and Ella Avenue path, those are the segments identified for reconstruction there. 19th Avenue path, I know council's familiar with, 15th to 5th. I will point out the path on 19th Avenue is on the south side between 15th and 1st, and then it moves to the north side between 1st and 5th due to right-of-way constraints and existing utilities in the boulevard areas. Civic Center parking lot reconstruction as identified in the orange there. There has been previous discussion about the need for additional parking at the Civic Center. That has been identified as a potential alternate in purple. So that is a consideration that could be further explored. And then the existing bituminous path that runs up near the fields has been discussed about being relocated to Transportation Drive to continue that connection with some potential future improvements impacting that trail that currently exists just north of the Civic Center. Estimated project costs, 10th Street, approximately 10th Street reconstruction, approximately $996,000. 13th Grace and Rice, $8,800,000. 20th Street, $659,000. The overlays contemplated within the report, you'll note that that total is much higher than the 2023 improvements, and that's part of the 10-year CIP, or the 10-year street improvement plan, where we talked about trying to accomplish both reconstructions and mill and overlays, and recognizing that these projects have an impact not only on the city, but also the Willmar municipal utilities budgets. Thompson Park and Ella Path improvements, we've estimated approximately $140,000. The 19th Avenue Path Improvement Project, approximately $1.4 million. Civic Center parking lot, that's the orange area, or the initial area, the existing parking lot that's out there. We've estimated that at around $2.1 million, and then the alternate to add the additional parking around $917,000. And then the seal coating improvements have been estimated at $408,000 for a total estimated project cost of just shy of $21 million. This is a breakdown of what those, how those project costs are broken down: street reconstruction, storm, sanitary sewer, water main, the overlay piece, parking lots and paths, and the seal coating. Additional breakdown based on project, which component is associated with street for each of them, storm, sewer, and the lake. You'll also notice that there is the water main piece, and I know that's the piece that the utilities like to have the information on so they can budget accordingly. Anticipated funding sources, as in the past years, we've identified the following as funding sources: assessments, state aid, Willmar Municipal Utilities for the water main piece, wastewater funds, local option sales tax, city funds, state funds, and then active transportation funds, which the city has already been awarded. This is a breakdown of the assessments and state aid and the various funding sources associated with each project. Based on the current project, the estimated assessments out of the overall project cost is estimated at approximately $8.3 million. State aid participation of $1 million. Municipal utilities is approximately 1.5, wastewater 1.7, and local option sales tax we've identified as approximately $392,000. And again, that would be for improvements made to the existing stormwater system, not replacements. And then lastly, the active transportation component associated with that 19th Avenue Path project. Assessments, the rates we've identified for these, very similar to the rates that we discussed a few minutes ago for street reconstruction on that per foot basis, along with the sanitary sewer and water main. Sanitary sewer and water services have been estimated there as well. And then the mill and overlay, reclaim and overlay areas in that $60 to $70 per foot range. So that's how we arrive at the total $8,300,000 approximate assessment total for all those projects. Project schedule, you've been provided with a copy of the preliminary engineering report in your packet. This presentation is simply a summary of that. The open house, we've identified as November 7th. That's where we would extend the invitation to whoever would like to come and learn more about the improvements, to come view those maps, provide any input regarding any concerns they have relative to anything in front of their property. The public hearing we've identified, should everything continue to move forward and for which you have a resolution in your packet this evening, we've identified as the November 20th meeting. That would allow the schedule to proceed with the approval of plans and specs in February, opening bids in March, accepting bids and contracts in April, starting construction in May, and then with the assessment hearing to follow. Similar process to all of the projects that have been completed previously, and certainly subject to any, open to any council input as it relates to timing associated with any of these. And with that, Mayor, Council, I'll pause for any questions that you might have.
Any questions for Jared? Audrey?
Rick was.
Go first.
Thank you, Mayor Reese. Grace and 13th, the streets are being widened, I believe you said. But that was on the last year's drawing. I mean, we delayed that a year. You haven't changed anything from what was planned.
13th Street will be narrowed.
Narrowed, okay.
Yes, by
What about
2
Grace?
feet. Grace is currently 38 feet on that lower left L and is proposed at 36.
Okay, so they're both being narrowed, but that's not a change from the drawings last year.
I believe it's a change from the improvement hearing last year. It's, yes,
Oh, it is a change.
yes.
Okay.
From the improvement hearing, not the plans.
Councilmember?
Because that's the, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So on the Civic Center parking lot, I know it needs reconstruction. Have you heard anything about the broomball arena? Is anything going to happen in the next year or two, or?
Was that contemplated in the parking lot?
Well, no, they'll be using it though. So I don't want to see the Civic Center parking lot being rebuilt and then they start building the broomball arena. Bring, I call it broomball, so whatever.
Oh.
Yes, I'm aware of
I thought
the,
we had a new activity.
I'm aware of the
heard about
curling
this.
center or
Curling.
broomball discussions.
I didn't know what you
Oh,
were talking about.
you're right, it is curling. Sorry.
Okay.
Yes, I'm aware of
You
it.
haven't heard?
I have not heard any recent updates on that, but we're aware of the location of where that would be located. Yep.
Okay, so they shouldn't destroy the parking lot if they,
No.
okay, it's a good thing.
Yep.
Councilmember Butterfield?
Going back to Grace now, when we had the meeting a few months ago, a lot of citizens didn't want sidewalks put in. Are we putting sidewalks in there or are we taking them out? There was big concerns with a lot of residents over there.
So currently, Grace does not have sidewalk,
Yep.
nor is it proposed to.
Okay, so we're going without it.
Any other questions? Audrey?
I was just going to comment if I saw the cost correctly for the Civic Center parking lot. There is no money anywhere other than city money that pays for that, right? Am I correct? There's nothing.
Yes, correct. If you look at the cost estimates. Your slide here. Funding sources.
It's been identified as 100% city funds, yes.
And so the two proposed would be over $3 million.
With the existing parking lot reconstruction and the expansion to the east, yes.
All right. If there's no more questions, I need a resolution
To approve it?
to set the public hearing
Oh,
for November 20th.
so move.
Second.
A motion and a second. Audrey?
Just the timing, your open house is on election day. Can you do that?
So we can look at an alternate date. I believe open house can be held on election day as long as it's not a public meeting.
Okay. Just the concerns that were expressed earlier about where we were tonight with assessments and the time frame. Just concerned, is this a time to address that, or?
We can certainly look at accelerating the assessment hearing portion of the project if everything keeps moving forward. Certainly, just from a staff perspective, if council's looking at modifying the way the existing assessment policy is currently interpreted or anything like that, the sooner we know that, the better, obviously. Thank you.
All right. Go ahead and vote.
Councilmember Nelson, you want to do a voice vote?
Yes.
And you vote yes?
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries 8 ayes, 0 nays.
Thanks, council.
All right, thank you, Jared. Next is Leslie, introduction of ordinance for water and electric rates.
Yes, so tonight I'm just introducing this ordinances for the municipal utilities. John Herron will be here at the public hearing to provide the update as to how they came to these rate adjustments. And you have that they're proposing a 20% increase on the average monthly water bill impact on page, what is it? 204 of your packet. And from there, they're also including 2025 and 2026, also 4% for 2025 and 2026, 3%. And I'm sure that these increases are due to the water treatment plant cost for the upgrades to the water treatment plant on Lakeland Avenue. And John will clarify that more. But there was no funding given for the Lakeland, no bonding money or at all, so it's all on the ratepayers for the increases for the Lakeland Avenue project. And then 5% increase for the electric rates for 2024.
Okay. So we're looking to set the hearing for the water and for the electric.
You're going to do 2 motions.
Yeah.
They need to be separate.
Yes.
I'll make that
Set
motion.
public hearing to amend the water rates for November 6th at about 6:30.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any other questions? Otherwise, go ahead and vote.
Councilmember Butterfield?
Aye.
That motion carries 8 ayes, 0 nays.
Okay, then we need a motion for the electric rates.
So
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion? Seeing none, go ahead and vote.
Councilmember Butterfield?
Aye.
That motion also carries 8 ayes, 0 nays.
All right. Hiring planning director, Leslie.
Yes, we have chosen the planning director that we would like the council to hire. Christopher Colbert is his name. He comes from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He has a very large background in housing. We had 48 applicants for the planning director position. They came from LinkedIn and also from our KPay application process. We narrowed that down to the top 5, and then from there, we interviewed the top 5, staff did, and from there, then we interviewed the top 3 in person with Councilman Rick Fagerly. And Christopher really rose to the top on all of the accounts. Staff also met Christopher. Staff met all 3 of the top candidates and met with them. And they asked questions as to what their process was for staffing and how they engaged with staff and such. And after hearing from the staff on what they thought was the top candidate, we took that into consideration, and Christopher was the one that rose to the top in that. And he would start with us on November 20th. If some of you have met Christopher via virtual last week, if council would like to continue that, we can set up some more time with Christopher.
I'll make a motion that we hire Christopher Corbett as our new planning director.
Second.
There we go, motion and a second, discussion. Go ahead and vote.
Councilmember Osk?
Aye.
That motion carries, 8 ayes, 0 nays.
All right, thank you, Les.
Thank you.
Any community pride announcements? If not, you got one, Rick?
I do. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I was supposed to thank the Public Works staff for filling the potholes on Lakeland Drive and 4th Street over by Walmart, filling in the seams. It's a lot smoother now, so thank you.
All right. There's no other pride announcements. We're going to adjourn to closed session.